Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're doing all right. So let's go then. What have we been doing recently? Well, we've been trying to create a tab document UI example. Why are we trying to create a tab document UI example? Because we're trying to evaluate the suitability of Rust GUI frameworks in 2024 for productivity style apps. Productivity style app is, think of, say, something like, I don't know, an EDA tool or Adobe Photoshop or a spreadsheet program, something like that, where you can work on multiple documents at the same time, switch between them, and have various complicated and normal sort of controls, rather than just like a dialogue with a couple of buttons and an OK or a save and load and so on. Right, so a non-trivial application. And we've been creating the spreadsheet. What spreadsheet, you all ask? This one. Let me just drop a link to this in the chat again. So we've evaluated a few of these, and we started with Freya, then we did Visio, then we did Floem, then we did MakerPad, then we did Cushy, and then we did Iced, and then we went back to Cushy after using Iced. Because while Iced might work for it, I don't really like the experience. So I wanted to have a look at Cushy again and give it another go. And one of the things that we had problems with Cushy was the state management. But we worked around that. We came up with a usable API to get some data into some tabs, into some tab system. But the whole dynamics and reactiveness in a lot of these reactive frameworks, it's a bit funky. And if you've got a dynamic and you've locked it and then you want to call some other code, it's possible that you get deadlocks and there's some weirdness going on with it, right? So I'm not entirely sold on these reactive systems. People say they're easy to reason about, and sure, if you've got like a little toy application with just like one dialogue and a few buttons on it, then probably it is. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But if you've got a more complicated application, they all become complicated. One of them has some, in a callback handler, you need some state which you can't access from somewhere else because something else owns the state and you can't get to it. And then you've got to start wrapping the state in dynamics, cloning dynamics, and then locking dynamics and unlocking dynamics all the time, which is a bit of a faff, to be fair. So yeah, not entirely sold on that. So on the stream on Friday, I think it was, I came up with the idea of trying to mix in the ELM architecture that Iced uses, which is documented in the very small Iced book, which is very incomplete. And the idea is that when a user interacts with something, a message is sent, and then eventually the main application, the runtime of Iced, calls an update method inside your application, which then does a match on the message, which is normally an enum, and then calls appropriate things or delegates to another component, which also has an update method, which takes its own type of message, right? And it's only the user interactions that generate messages, right? So what we tried was integrated this into Cushy on Friday, and I posted in the Cushy Discord server and also the Ice Discord server about what people think about this and whether it's a good idea or not. And the author of Cushy seems to think that it is a workable solution, and I'm not mad, which is nice. Because sometimes I come up with some ideas and it's like, well, I don't know whether this is a good idea or not. What would your application look like if you carried on doing this? Well, today we're going to find out. So, yes. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Oh, and in the meantime, I digress a little bit. Where are we? Version 0.2 of Floem was released. I updated my branch of this tab document UI to use it thus. And this is what it looks like now. So if we go add home, we've got oh that was weird. It was a bit slow there, wasn't it? And then if we do this, and then we've still got the random sort of magical resizing issues with it. And not only that, the API has changed such that this thing can't be dragged anymore. So, you know, there wasn't anything special and new in it, because I think I was probably using a fairly recent version of Flow anyway when I started. So, yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that if you were looking at Flow. So, yeah. So I documented the idea of using ELM in Cushy thus. So I documented this, and this is in the branch. So I'll just quickly go over this. It was discovered that for non-trivial components that use a set of widgets, that managing state becomes tricky, and resulted in wrapping component state members in dynamics and having to make the entire component state object clone, so it's possible to call methods that require immutable self. This had the side effect of requiring lots of uses of lock and having to deal with more potential deadlock issues, which I mentioned a minute ago. Solution to this is to create the dynamic myComponent message, where myComponent message is typically an enum with clone, and pass that to component on creation, which stores it in itself. The only source for each myComponent message is the component the message belongs to. I do not share this enum with multiple components. That's bad. Don't do that. It should only be one source, and that is the user doing something, making an interaction, which then creates the message in the on-click handler, for example. Typically, an enum, blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay, we'll get to here. Component's widget's job is then to emit messages via updating this dynamic rather than attempting to mutate state immediately. So the idea is that instead of having a myComponent on-click handler where you clone self so that you've got an instance that you can use in the closure so that you can lock that dynamic. Oh, and it needs to be a dynamic as well, so that you can then call or delegate to the on button clicked handler. Instead of doing that, you clone the dynamic message that you were given and then set the message to some message, which is a bit like how things happen in Iced, except that you don't get this. You don't have to have the message, because the Iced runtime provides that for you. But this isn't the end of the world doing this. And then I go through sort of what each of the different bits of the application looks like, and then talk about what happens when you've got multiple components. And we'll probably come back and update this documentation as we progress with this. Now, in Iced, the update methods also have a return value. We haven't dealt with this return value yet, but at some point we're going to have to deal with a return value. And the return value of an update method in Iced is a task, normally. That's how most of the Iced applications work. So we might need to borrow that idea as well, because you might have to do something at the end of this update processing. So for instance, if you've got an open button, right, like we do, like this, we've got a file selector, and then when that finishes, it has a callback which then needs to emit a message to the application, and that should be sort of like open file, and then the application would then do that. So you've got this task process, tasks and messages, all this kind of thing. So we're going to have a go at filling around with this a little bit more. Right, and specifically the thing that we're going to try and do is deal with this open button and change this from using this nested callback approach like we've got here, where we've got an on-click handler which has to clone a load of application state so that it can be used in the closure, or moved into the closure and used by the closure, this closure. And then that closure uses a file picker, which then requires another callback handler for when you press like OK or cancel, which then has to clone those other things again. So we've got clones of clones, so that we can then use those clones of clones to mutate the state. So we're going to try and refactor this to using the messages. Okay. Right then, let's go. So the on-click handler here, let's just comment out all this as well to start with. That's the old stuff. No, not doing that anymore. What we're going to do is something else. So we've got our toolbar, and in the iced example we had handlers for like tab messages and toolbar messages. So let's create a toolbar message. So make toolbar. So we're going to go derive clone, and then pub enum. It's going to be pub for now. It doesn't really need to be right now, but it's going to be because when I move it, it needs to be public. Toolbar message. Great. So the toolbar button that we want to click is open. So open clicked. Yeah, done. So somehow we need to emit that message somewhere. So this make toolbar needs to be given a toolbar message, which is going to be a dynamic toolbar message. Thus. And then in our on-click handler, we can go let message is toolbar message.clone, and then message.set with a toolbar message of open clicked. Right. That's it. That's our callback handler. That's all we're going to do. Oh, I suppose we can. Okay, yeah. And it's complaining because it wants closure. So we move, and then we get an event here, which we don't need to look at. And then complaining why it's not implemented for this. Let me just delete this from here completely. I can look at it from the commit log. Why is it complaining? Yes, there we go. Tool message set. Partial EQ. So this needs partial EQ as well because of the fact that they're stored in dynamics. Because the dynamic needs to know whether the value it contains has been changed, and it uses partial EQ to work that out. Okay, so we've got our open button, and it sends a message. Okay, now what? Well, we've broken a couple of other things, haven't we? Because this make toolbar needs this toolbar message, and this thing is called somewhere here. But we need this message, so we're going to make a new one. And we're going to say default. But the problem is we don't have default implemented for toolbar message. So let's make a none here perhaps. And then go impl default for toolbar message. And make it none. Toolbar message none, not none none. Toolbar message none, right? So that fixes that. Now we can pass the toolbar message into here. So now the application has it, and the toolbar creating method has it, which is great. So yeah, and this passes it into it, right? Right, now what we need to do though is make it so that our applications update method knows what to do with this type of thing. And the way we did that for the tabs was this. So we've got an update where we've got a message, which isn't a toolbar message, it's an application message. I might rename this message to be app message so that it's clearer. And this currently has a tab message, which wraps a tab message. So we're going to do the same for toolbar. Oh, press the wrong button. Okay. Right. So we're going to wrap that. Now we need to implement the remaining pattern. And how we're going to handle it is this. We're going to use self dot. Well, I don't know. What do we need to do? Maybe we don't need to do this. Let's go self dot on toolbar message and just pass the message to a function. Just for now, we'll do this. Okay. Oh. Okay. And then we can match on the message. And this is where we're probably going to move some of that file picker code to, right? To do. So we do that. But at the moment, we've got toolbar messages and a dynamic, and nothing happens to it. Right, so we give it, the on-click handler sets it, and that's it. Nothing's looking at it, right? So we need to have some way of converting a toolbar message into an app message. And that is fairly trivial. We did it for the tab one, so we're just going to borrow it. So we did this. So instead of toolbar message being that, we're going to go tab message. And we're going to, for each message that gets set, as in the on-click handler, we're going to clone that message, the dynamic for that message. And then we're going to set the application message to be app message, and then it's going to be a toolbar message with a toolbar message inside it. Thus. Okay. And the handler for the application message is this. So it basically goes every time the message is set, as in this one sets it when you press the toolbar button. This application message gets set, and then it gets cloned. The application state dynamic gets cloned, logged, and then it calls the update message on it. Oops. Which then delegates to the appropriate handler. Thus. So, does it compile? Probably not. Probably missed something. Oh, that needs to be a double colon. I wonder why it wasn't coming up in the right colour. There we go. It compiles. Yay. So let's have a look at our app state. Where this one on toolbar message, and let's just go println open clicked just for now, just so that we know that it works. Right, open, and it says open clicked. So the open button, when we clicked it, just to go over this again, make toolbar, here it is. So the open button simply emits a message. That's it. That's all it does. It doesn't try and mutate state or anything like that. It just emits a message. So the only state that is changing is in the message itself. That then gets handled by this, which then gets the toolbar message, wraps it in an app message, and then updates the app message. When that gets changed, this callback gets called, and that basically gets the application state, locks it, and calls the update method on it. But this update takes a mutable self, and therefore you can mutate the application state. Woohoo! And then do what you need to do. So yeah, so that works. So, okay, let's move that file picker code into here then. So the toolbar had a button, this one, with a whole bunch of code in it, this code. So we're going to copy that code. And then we're going to paste it into here. Let's say, yeah, we'll put it in here for now. It's fine. So we're going to try and see what we can do here. So we don't need to clone anything now. Goodbye, cloning. We don't need a closure. Goodbye, closure. Right, so we've removed one level of cloning. Okay. So we've got this window here. Well, yeah, how do we get a window? Let me put that back for a moment. Yeah, hold on. And then what's redo? Is it Control Y or is it the other one? Control Shift Z, isn't it? Yeah. Control Shift Z. Okay. So we need a window. Here we can do self tab bar because we're in the app state. We need this window from somewhere. Where do we get that from before? Oh, it got it from the context. That's fine. We can do that. This is unused here, so we need this bit of code somewhere else. On toolbar message. So we can go to the context directly. Right. When we need to. And we don't need to clone the window handle now. I mean, we could do. I'll leave it like that for now. Let's see what happens now when we try and compile this. Yes, that should work. There. So, does it work again? Open. It works again. Look at that. Ta-da! Okay, but we're not done yet. Let's do a quick commit. And then let's update the other toolbar message thingies to do it as well. And then we'll take a look back and see what it looks like. Take a step back and see what it looks like. So we've got that. Okay. So let's say use messages for toolbar buttons. Now I've only done the open one at the moment. I'm going to come back and amend this commit. Don't worry. Okay. So close other tabs. And this one. So we've got the on toolbar message. So now we've got a mix of ELM and a mix of dynamiciness, right? And that's not good. So we need to go back to where the toolbar is. Hold on, let me see if I can split this. Split right. Yeah, there we go. Instead of scrolling up and down all the time. So the idea is to move some of the code. Let's get rid of that as well. There we go. To move some of the code that's in the make toolbar block so that they all just do this. So let's start at the top. So we're going to paste the same thing in. but it's not going to be open clicked, it's going to be home clicked. Right, and now we need a handler for this. Does. And then we take the existing code that we had before and we put it in here, and we do the same thing again. So we don't need to clone anything anymore. We don't need a closure anymore. And now we can just go self.context probably and self.tabbar. Happy days. Is that right? Yeah, should be. Okay. And yeah, curious. Let's see if we can just take some of these out a little bit and make this a bit more succinct. There we go. Because we don't need all the extra braces and everything. And let's do the same here. There we go. So now we've just got 2 lines in each on-click handle. That's what we're trying to aim for. So now we've got the next one, the new button. Go new clicked. And then we'll do the same with this one. And I think this is a clear illustration of the difference between this and I think this is fairly clear doing it like this. What the difference ends up looking like. Okay, we've got to close all now. So we've got the open. We're going to do it underneath. Let's do this side first. So it's not open clicked, it's close all clicked. Add that. Move this. Close all clicked. That's okay. Huh, interesting. Look, app state is no longer required to make a toolbar. That's interesting. Huh. Well, I never. Which kind of makes a lot of sense, really. Like, why do you need the application state to make a toolbar? I don't know, maybe you need it for config or something like that to work out what toolbar buttons to display or something, but, you know, you can pass the config in, I suppose. So now, yeah, we've got 4 buttons, and they all look pretty much the same, and they all just emit a message. And now we've got handlers over here. Let's see if they all work. They all do not need to be mutable. Huh. That's interesting, because our toolbar wanted a mutable self. So we don't need this to be mutable anymore. No. Happy coincidence. Happy days. Alright, does it work? So, home. It still works. New. Still works. Open. Still works. Close all. Still works. We fixed it. It's done. Let's amend that commit. So, we changed that bit. Let me get rid of this side. We added the other handlers. We added the additional messages, and we moved all the code and removed all of the duplicated cloning. This stuff. Yeah, that's I'm kind of okay with that. That's all right. Now let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. So, one of the things that's a bit of a faff when you're styling apps that don't have the ability to hot reload is to get the application into the state where you can make styling changes. Right. So, here we go. So, say I want to style this, for instance, or even, oh yeah, maybe I want to style this here, this type thing. So the actions that I need to do to get to that were start the application, press new, press OK. And every time I make a styling change, I have to repeat those same two things. Let's see what we can do about that. Let's update this new form so that when you press OK, it emits messages. I don't know what this is going to look like. This is going to be interesting. And then we're going to come back and see if we can send the same messages to the application to get the application into the same state. We'll see if it works. We might run into problems here. We might run into problems. I foresee issues with form validation. But maybe not. So, this is the new tab, right? And let's look at the OK button. Here's the OK button. Right. So this is what it does. Oh yeah, this is going to be interesting. Look at this. Right. So when it goes on click, it runs validations, and when the validations are valid, it does this. Okay. Now, interestingly, all the logic for creating a new document is currently living in a validation on-click handle on the OK button. That's where it currently lives. Okay, so let's go back to the main and let's look at the toolbar again. Let's bring up the structure. Make toolbar, right? So this is the kind of thing that we want to have instead, right? So let's just delete all this and make the OK button emit a message. But it's not a toolbar message. It's a new form message. It's not a tab, really. It's a form, I think. Maybe it's a. Let's just go new tab message. Let's just keep it simple for now. Right, so new tab message, and then we want a new tab message, and then OK clicked, right? So this is what we did for the toolbar message. So we'll borrow this. And we'll put it, I think we'll put it at the top here. But it's going to be new tab message. We're going to keep the none there, and then we're going to change this one to be OK, and then just delete all the other ones for now. Oh, not toolbar message, but new tab message. Which should probably really be self none, really. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So when we're making the content, we need a message. Because currently, we need this, right? So how do we get that into here? Let's try passing it in. Make content. We've got a context. Yeah. Okay, this is interesting, isn't it? So, the thing is, we can't add anything else to here. Because this is a trait implementation, but it might actually make sense to update the signature for this. Make content. I think it probably does actually make sense to do that. So if make content, tab key context. We could put the message in the context, but I don't really like the idea of that. Let's see where it's called. So the tab bar is making a widget. It might need to be in the context, you know. Doobie-doo-doo-doobie-doo-doo. Let's have a look. Okay. Might be okay. So because we've got this tab state, so we've got tab kind. So each tab has its own message, maybe? Yeah. Okay, so when you add a tab, let's have a look at this. When we add a tab, we pass it a TK. So in the new form, we've got self, so potentially we can just put the message in here. Yeah, we can just get self message, can't we? Okay. I think it's fine. So instead of passing it to it, we could just go self.message, new tab message.clone. Yeah, rather than that, we just go message.clone instead. Okay, let's try and put it in the tab itself. We'll go message. Sure. And then do we have a new, have we got an implementation of new here? No. Okay. Where do we create it? I forget. Ah, here it is. So it just creates a new dynamic message, which is maybe not what we want, because we need to pass the message in, don't we? I think that's what we need to do. let's make a message. Where are we going to do it? Add a new tab, then it's going to wrap it, and this is going to need that, and then this is going to need the application message in order to do its job. What's in self at the moment? Yeah, okay. Add new tab. This is interesting. I mean, potentially what we can also do is move those methods so they're part of the application instead of having these by themselves. Yeah. Let's have a think about that. Yeah. Interesting. I think we can get rid of a lot of argument passing as well. So let's refocus on this. So we're trying to deal with how we get a message into this. Let's just try and create a message here. Yeah. So if we do that, and then let's do like we did for the toolbar, we have that conversion to an app message code, right? This stuff. Let's borrow that and do that here. And we can probably make a generic function to do this as well. And just like delete a lot of this code. So we do this. And then we've got this message.clone here. So we either need to pass the message in or get it from self. At the moment, we've got a method that's just an associated, it's not even an associated function, it's just a function. But if it was a method on app state, it could have access to self, which contains a message, which you can access to clone, and then it also wouldn't need to clone the context. So let's try that. Let's go self.message. And then we're going to wrap it in a we need to delegate this to the tab. Yeah, the onions are coming out. I can feel the onions coming along. What we need is a tab message. But the problem is a tab message takes a tab message, and it's one of these. And it's a message from the tab. Which it needs to pass back somewhere. Yeah, it's going to get funky now. Okay, let's come back to that in a minute. There needs to be a sort of level of unwrapping going on here. We had the same thing in Iced. So in Iced, what did it look like? Just to refresh our memory. So we had our main app, right? And the types of message that we had was a tab message. And the tab message contained a tab message, a tab kind message, which is pretty much exactly what we need to do. And the tab kind message is an enum, which simply wraps the different types of messages. So we need to do the same kind of thing as this. I'm sure let's borrow it. Why not? Why not? Let's just borrow it. Hold on. I'm getting myself all confused. So we've got a tab message here. Ooh, wait a second. Let's go back to iced a second, because yeah, we've got a close requested tab. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And then this tab message has currently got this. It's that, right? Wait a second. Tab message. Yeah. And it's basically this that we need in here. Sorry, here. Right? Tab message, import, TKM. Right, yeah, so we can do that. Let's go back to... We're going down the rabbit hole a bit now. And then this is going to be a tab kind message. We don't have this yet. But in our app tabs, this is where we should have it. Let's go back to ice and look if it was the same place. Yeah, pretty much. Tab kind message, app tabs, these ones. Whoop. There. We don't have these ones yet. I'm just going to comment them out. But we do have that one. This needs to... It says it needs debug on it, but it doesn't really, so I'm just going to take that off for now. Right. So we've got that. I'm going to delete these. We'll just put them back in when we want them. Now let's go and import this here, which is good. But tab kind message doesn't have partial EQ on it. And now it does, so that's going to satisfy that, which is fine. So where we were creating this tab, we now need to wrap this new tab message in a tab message of a tab kind message of new tab. Yeah, we've got a couple of layers of onions going on here. Oh, it needs a tab key though. Now we've got a catch-22 situation. Right. Okay, this is fine. So when we're adding a tab, we get a tab key back, right? So we can go let tab key is this. Then we can put this bit after here, but I spelled key wrong. So we've got the message, and nothing's happens with it yet. So now we can go tab key. There we go. Now at some point we're going to have to write the delegation code to make it go back there. Okay, so we don't have self yet, and we don't have a message in self. So let's change this so that it just takes self. But it doesn't live in an implementation of anything yet. So we're going to make it live in app state. This. We're going to make it live in here. Right. So now we can go self.context.lock or just clone maybe, because add tab. We'll come back to that. Might just need a reference. And then we've got this tab bar guard, which really we don't need. We don't need a guard anymore. We can just go self.tabbar.lock. And then we do that, right? But now we don't have this message, so we're going to add it. And this is going to be a dynamic of app message. Thus, and we've got that message, it's here. But now we need to put it in here. And since it's only a message, we can just clone it. It's just a reference to it. It's used underneath here, so we need that. Right. So we're getting there. We're getting there. So we removed all this argument passing and all this stuff. So we got this add new tab, but this was called somewhere, and it was like this. So this on toolbar message is already part of app state. So we should be able to go self.add new tab without any arguments. Oh, the simplicity. So it simplifies one bit, but on the other hand, you get the trade-off of sort of wrapping messages and all this kind of stuff and then doing that. But there's going to be some trade-offs. Let's see what happens now when we try and compile it. And we've got to fix some generics here. Tab bar, tab kind message. This is fine. Okay. And then yeah, we're going to need a TKM here as well. TKM. Oh no. Is that right? Yeah, it was that way around, wasn't it? You have to update these a little bit. Oops, too many commas. Yeah. And then what we've got here, tab bar of tab kind and tab kind message, that needs to be there. The concrete types. We can probably get rid of a lot of all this stuff at some point. Oops. Yeah. Okay, so here we need a TKM. Right, but it's not. Oh, is that right? Message dynamic tab message. TKM. There. We've got TKM here. Yeah, we do. This bit is interesting. This what they've done at the top here. It shows you what bit of code you're looking at as you scroll through it. So it shows you the closure, it shows you the if let. It's quite good, that. So it saves you having to scroll all the way up and all the way down again to find out what method you're in. Yeah. Okay, we need one of those there. We're going to need this here. And then, and this bit is where we delegate to the new tab. Message. We'll come back to that. To do. Do-do-do. I think that's what it wants. Can't compare TKM with TKM. Yeah, it's true. Because TKM needs partial EQ. Partial EQ plus send. Interesting. And then what do we got here? So yes, exactly this. So we need the tab kind message of a new tab message. Yeah, we need to wrap it one more time. There we go. It is a little bit crazy, this bit is. I'm not gonna lie. There's quite a lot of oniony going on there. So that's the level of nesting that you need to handle and delegate to. But you only have to write this once. You only have to write the delegation bit once. We had to do the same thing in Iced, so it's not like it's worse. We had to do exactly this in Iced. Let me point you at the code. We had to do exactly the same thing. Where is it? In main somewhere. Wrapping things. Yeah, here, like this. We basically have to map everything. Like this. Here it is. That is essentially the same bit of code. So you get a tab message, or a tab kind message, with a new tab message, with a message. And you're currently processing a message, and that's the message that you need to map. So it's no different, it's no worse, it's no better. It's the same. So, you know, it's not hideous. It's a bit wordy. But yeah, okay, let's continue. TKM might not live long enough. Yeah, I thought I was going to have to add plus static on this as well. We're going to see how that turns out. Okay, it compiles. Oh my god. What did we do? I forgot. Yeah. Well, it's not going to work because there's a to-do in there, wasn't there? Who remembers where the to-do was? It was this. This is where we've got to do some delegation. So we've got our tab bar, and if it receives a tab message for a particular type of tab, then it needs to find the tab and call the update method on that tab's instance. Which should be okay. So we should be able to go let tab state is self.tabs.get with the tab key, and then unwrap that because we always expect it to work. I think this needs to be a reference. Is that right? Self.tabs is a dynamic. No, maybe we need to lock it first. and then get it, and then unwrap it. There we go. Now we get a tab state. And if you're following along with this from Friday, we had in the slot map, this tabs, we had a bunch of things in a tuple. I moved those to a tab state structure. Okay. So in this tab state structure, we've got the actual tab, and we can call update on it with the tab kind message, I suppose. Right, but we don't have an update method yet, I don't think. Do we? Let's see what this tab is. This tab is a tab kind. And the implementation we were in is where the tab kind implements tab, which is fine. So that means we need, come on, show me the, now finally we can go fun update, which takes a mutable self, no, and doesn't return anything yet. Yeah. Yet. So now all our tabs need to implement this. So we've got implementations of that. So the new tab is what we need to fix. Oh yeah. I suppose we can just do this, can't we? Implement members. There we go. Thus. Oh, but we need to pass it the message. Yeah. It's a tab kind message, isn't it? So this trait, what, needs to be generic now? Or does the update method need to have the generic bit on it? TKM message TKM. Does help if we do that as well, doesn't it? Okay. Let's delete that and do that again because it was wrong. Okay, right. So now we can match on the message. Do we need to? I'm not sure whether this needs to be there or not. It doesn't know what that is. How do we work that? And we want impl. Have a new tab. Yeah, I think we need to. Because you can't add trait bounds on here. Yeah, this isn't right like this. This needs to be a generic argument for the tab. Is it implement tab? Is it new tab message like this? I forget how this works. Remove redundant. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's go back to this and say TKM and remove that and put it there. Yeah. Now we can match on the message and we can do stuff. No, that's not the right one. I put the wrong one in here, didn't I? Hold on. No, new tab message. No, that's right. Oh, I've got the wrong one here. There we go. Right. So that's the OK button. And then we had all this bit of code here, which finally we can put here, I think. Let's deal with the none case first. Now we've got a mutable self. So we don't need to do any of this rubbish. And we can just go self.kind.whatever, I think. And we don't need a closure here either. We've got this documents tab bar and context to deal with as well. Right, so one of these was the closure, so we can get rid of one of them. And bring that back in. Oh, this is supposed to be directory. Okay. So we're missing these things. They were here. Right. Make content has got a context. Interesting. So we need to be able to get to the context to get these things, but we don't have the context in our method signature here. So what are we going to do? The update method, yeah, should it be past the context? Let's see where this is called. Now, the other tab things have a context. It wouldn't be totally unreasonable, I feel, to make this have a context. So I'm going to try that. And we'll see where it gets us. Apparently we don't need a window in here. Right, so we've got stuff from the context and we're getting it out and then away we go. Right, so we've got this tab key here. Update. So again, this update method needs to have more things. It needs to have the tab key. Yeah, we are getting there. Tab key. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And then this one, make context, took a tab key, which it doesn't need anymore. Interesting, because we moved all this stuff out. It doesn't need this anymore. Let's make this unused. Right, where do we get to now? So we've got an update method, which is derived from this. But now we need to poke this around a bit. So we need the context. Does tab state have context? No. Where do we get the context from? We had it before. Look, we've got it here. Replace. Does it get passed in? I think it just gets passed in, doesn't it? Should be passed in. Yeah, okay, let's make that get passed in. And then we've got the tab key, which we need to pass over to that, and we've got that. And then it wants to move it. Tab state mutable. Needs to call get mut. That's that fixed. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. So this one needed to be passed in the context. So we need to pass in the context. So we've got a context in the app state. So we can go self.context. Thus. And this is just a reference. Thus. Okay, that it might work. It might work. Missing generics. Okay, yeah, it's true. Yes. So this needs to be document tab message now. We're going to start to add all the other message things. Let's put that there for a moment. So the new tab has got a new tab message. So we're going to borrow this, paste that in, and we're just going to make it default for now. And we're going to do the same for the home tab, because we're going to need to. And the reason we're going to need to is because of the underlying error just here. There we go. Right, so the document thing doesn't have an update method on it yet. It needs it. But there's nothing to do there. We haven't got any messages that are emitted, so it's fine. Same deal for this one. Okay. Let's try and compile. Well, we're getting there. Right, and then this one is where we need to delegate the different types of messages for this. Right, so this is the tab kind message. And we need to implement this. And this is where we match ourselves. And if we are one of these, then we go tab dot update with the context, the tab key, and the this is supposed to be tab kind message, right? Which we don't have in here yet. So now we can add these back here. So we've got the home tab message, and then also the document tab message. Thus, and we can import those. And now we can go home tab message here. That's better. There we go. And then this is supposed to be the message, which we put in here. But wait a second. Wait a second. We need to. Oh no. I'm being silly. We need to do two matching things. We need to go match self and the message. There we go. That's what we're missing, because we need the tab from ourself. And then that goes here. And then we need the remaining ones. These ones, but let's see if we can work it out. Tab kind, new tab message. No. Message, Yeah. And they all end up being the same. But the types are different for each one. Oh, I've got too many brackets here. That's why it was struggling with the autocomplete. And then the third one, which was the document. Right, and that just delegates it like that. But here we need the other type. And it's supposed to be unreachable. Because you shouldn't have a tab self and be given a message that's not for the right tab, so they're not allowed to be transposed. Right. Okay, we're getting there. Temporary value drop while borrowed. Yeah. So we need to extract this to a guard. Right. And I guess this needs to be mutable. And then that guard's going to be locked after that, undone after that. Right, so that does not need to be mutable. It's true. Yeah, we've not done that one yet. That's fine. We've not done that one yet. We don't care about that. Variants are never constructed. It's true. We've got no on-click handlers for those. So, does the OK button work on the new form? Right. So we go new and we go OK, and it does indeed work. It runs the same validation code. So, it works. So let's commit all this. So this is use messages for tabs. I suppose that's mainly what we did. And then let's say first cut of using message for tabs. Starting with the OK button on the new tab form. Yeah, that's kind of what we did. Now, let's get back to the problem that I mentioned earlier, right? The problem we had earlier was when we want to style the new tabs buttons or forms or whatever, we had to do a series of actions. We've got to start the application up, we've got to go new, and we've got to go OK to see what these look like. Right? And it's tedious having to do that every time. So let's see if this architecture lets us make our lives easier. So if we go into main, right, I have no idea whether this is going to work, but I don't see why it wouldn't. The question is, where do we put the code? Where do we put the code? Where do we put the code? So we've got this open thing, and away it goes. So what we need to know is that when the app opens, is there some callback that Cushy has that allows us to say when a window is opened? Or do we care? Because I don't think it's going to work unless the window is open. So we've got this window on close thing. What other things can we do? Is there an on? There is, there's an on open. Let's see what happens. Okay, look. So we've got this message let's try this. It's going to be entertaining, trust me. We're going to go let message is message.clone, right? And now we can use this message in this closure. So I don't know how this is going to work. Because there's no message queue, and there's only supposed to be one source of messages, and this source of messages is supposed to be, because I wrote that in my documentation earlier, and this is what we thought. Okay, I'm going to write the code, and then we're going to see what happens when we emit one message manually. We're going to say new, toolbar message. Toolbar message, new clicked. Let's see what happens. Oh. What is this? A window handle. Let's see what happens. So the application started up, and now we're looking at the new button. Yeah. That works. But I don't think this next thing that I'm going to do is going to work, because when does it handle the changes to message set? And it might work. So we're going to pretend that we've got a tab message, and it's going to be a tab kind message of a new tab message, and it's going to be the new tab message OK clicked message. But we need a tab key. We don't know the tab key. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Because we can't create the tab message without the tab key. Okay. We need a tab key. We don't have a tab key. Just for fun, you see, we've got no way of doing anything with the tab bar to let us find the tab that we just created. So I suppose you need an API that allows you to get a tab key out of it in order for this to work. But the idea is there. The idea is that you should be able to recreate the application state by sending a sequence of messages based on the interactions from a user. You just need the API to be updated a little to let you do that. It would work though. You know, as long as you can ask the tab bar for the tab that's got the title new, then it might work, right? Let's put that back. I mean, we've got make widget and we've got all this we've got all this stuff. Tab bar is a dynamic, bunch of tabs, and each of these tab bars has a tab state, and the label is a dynamic string. Go on then. Let's go find tab by name. New. Let's say. And it gives us a tab key back. Let's make this happen. Let's see. Does it put it in the right place? No. Yeah, no. That needs to be somewhere on here, doesn't it? You know, it'll probably work. Let's do it. Name. Or should we call it label? Let's call this method by label. Okay, that makes more sense. So we can go self.tabs.iter, I suppose. Well, I suppose we need to. It's a dynamic, isn't it? Is tabs a dynamic? It is a dynamic. I don't know whether it still needs to be a dynamic. It might not. But we're going to lock it. And if we go tabs.find, it's a function that returns true, and that gives you an optional tab item, but we want to map it. Let's go find map. We've got a tab key. It's not that, it's tab key and tab state. This is going to give us an optional tab key back. And then if the tab state dot label dot get is the label, then map to some tab key maybe, else, oops, no, I don't know, maybe. Why is it going? What happened there? Oh, right, yeah, okay. Hey. Yeah, it's fine. What? What's going on here? Dot unwrap. What's the problem here? Tab message. I'm going to get a tab message. Tab kind of message. And it wants a tab key and a new tab message in one of these things. What's the problem? Oh. Oh, it's doing, the editor's doing weird things here. So there's supposed to be a new tab message. Don't do that. Okay, now it's less confused. However, it still re-imported these. Right. Don't do that. Tab key cannot be dereferenced, yeah, because it's just a tab key. Okay. Let's see what happens. It might just crash. It might not work at all. Yeah, just crashed. Unwrap on a none. Kind. Why would that not be working? That's an odd place for it to not work. Now why diddly why? Yeah, it's because it's probably because the Cushy UI hasn't had a chance to update itself yet, because we're stuck in this block still here. Kind of interesting. I wasn't entirely sure that this would work. And it doesn't entirely work. It could be made to work if there was some way of emitting a set of messages somehow. Curious. I am curious as to what the state of these things are. So, kind gets set when hold on. Let me just let me just run this for a second, just to make sure. Yeah, we do have that. And if we emit the message, then yeah, we don't have this set. This is where the kind gets set. Because this is self.kind here. But doesn't it? Pretty sure it had a default of a kind choice. Let's see when this is called, when we do this. Or if it's called. Oh, hold on. I've got to do this. It does get called. It does indeed get called. Huh. So, yeah, that's interesting. So this is somewhere down here is where directory Here's where the kind thing gets created. And then you get a row, you get a grid with some dimensions. We get an OK button, and then we get a form. And we get some space either side of the form, and then we return that. And that gives us a widget. And that widget is given to the tab. And then some state is created, yeah. And it's put in the slot map. And then we get a Let's have a look at mains update method. It'd be interesting to look at the log on this to see wait a sec. Oh yeah, this one. It'd be interesting to see what happens. Iterators, we don't care about this, don't care about that. Yeah, and then we're back to here, and then it does that, and you get a tab key. So when we set this message, we expect this to be called, yeah. And therefore we expect this to be called. We do, honestly. There it is. And then we expect this to be called, which it is. And therefore we expect this to be called on the new tab, which it is immediately called. Let's go to here. What is this kind thing now? Kind. Self-kind. During callback state, sync state. Don't know what all this is. It's supposed to be one of those, but why? What did that print out? Kind, none, yeah, that's... Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. We're emitting it, but we're not allowed to be emitting it yet. It is actually working, but we're not supposed to be emitting it yet. Right. I remember now. So the message is only supposed to be emitted when the form is valid, and this when the kind isn't set, the form is not valid. So it is actually working. We're just being numpties. So we're not actually allowed to emit that yet. That's interesting, isn't it? There's a couple of ways we could handle this, because at the moment we've got this on-click handler and it's got this validations when valid. Let's look at this validations for a minute. This validations is validations default. So it creates this validations object. Yeah. Creates a validations object, adds some validations to it. So this is probably, if we look at this implementation, it'll probably have a list of validation closures, which is basically storing all this and then running through each of them on the dynamic that is related to the closure. We can have a quick look at that. State, validation state. It's got validate. And it creates a new validation for each one, stores it, sets the source of it to be that. Yeah, okay. I don't know exactly how all this works, but this set source is a bit funky. I suppose this is just a dynamic. Huh. Yeah. Oh, I might have to look at the implementation of that. It looks interesting. Might learn some stuff from that. Yeah. So, because what we could do is pull that validations object out of there and have a reference to that, and then have it so that the OK button runs. I don't know. Not really sure about that. I mean, do we want to manually? Yeah. Because it's not really OK clicked, basically. This is the problem. It's not really OK clicked. It's like on valid form. This is essentially what it is, isn't it? So we can't emit that message unless the form is valid. And we don't know whether the form is valid by sending messages. Interesting. Not really sure what we can do about that. We could, like I say, we could move this validations thing out. Can we, oh, wait a sec, let's look at this API. So it's got this validations, and there was this, and there's an implementation, and there's is valid on it. And this validations, wait a second. Is clonable. Because it just holds the state. Interesting. So perhaps, where's my OK button gone? There he is. Perhaps let's add the OK clicked again. Right, and let's see if we can move some of this. So we've got this. We're going to move it here. Not sure what this is going to do. So if we do that, right, do we think this is a silly idea or not? Oh no, not self-validation's clone. Validation's clone. Let's go validations like this. Does it like this? Doesn't have partial EQ, so you can't put it in a message. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be a good idea. But you don't know until you try. Let's not do that then, because I don't really like that anyway. Let's get rid of this. Yeah. I don't know how this validations thing works. Because you're passing that into that and it uses that and it has to be converted to something. Yeah, it's quite interesting that. So this validation's when valid. It returns something that gives you a type R. An on-click handler. Wants something that's takes a function option button click. Function of option button click. Wait a second. This is quite magical, this is. Huh. It's quite hard to work out exactly how this works. So, okay, so this goes, so there's when valid, right? When valid. And this returns a function that invokes a handler. Anyone? Yeah. Exactly. Curious, no? What I'm wondering is that what makes all the things red? When does that happen? Let me look at let me look at this again. So the OK button doesn't have any messages on it or anything like that, but the other one has validation. Right, okay, so that's that. Yeah, okay. Okay. Let's try. Well, I see. It's gonna get funky. This is, we might have to look in at return values for this now. Okay, let's take that off. Let's leave the existing code there and add in new tab message OK click, and then just see what we can do here. So somehow we need to get validations. We can probably get it from self if we put it in there. Right, and we could do this, and then we could emit a new message. This message isn't this, right? So this is where we could return something. That's interesting. So in ICE, the way that this works is, well, you have a task which emits a type of message, right? And you say, and the task is the type of a message, right? And you say, when this task is done, then it emits that value. And this thing will probably update the shell inside ICE, the runtime inside ICE, to futz around with the message, right? Yeah. Yeah. So add something to a stream of messages, right, is essentially what it's doing. So if we're back in our Cushy code, we could say let's just keep it the same, just for fun. It finished doing everything, and it's going to, we want it to emit a new tab message of OK clicked on a valid form. Now, I don't know whether this is a good idea. We don't have this task thing. We don't have anything. But we could borrow all the ICE code, but that would be silly because it's all using futures and so on. So we need some method of, we need some task thing, and we need some way of processing returned tasks. And we're going to have to return a task of a new tab task. New tab message, I think. Let me look at that again. Yeah, it was just that. Yeah. Just borrow the ideas here. We don't have this task, so let's add that. Just for fun. We'll see where this takes us. Is it an ELM? No. Struct task of type T. I don't know how we're going to do this yet. So we need a method called done, which takes one of these. Let's work on that first. But we know we need a generic thing. We'll leave that like that for the moment. Pub fun done. And then somehow it needs to do something with this task. Yeah. But what would it do with it? Let's have a look at the iced one for inspiration again. Kind of curious. It's got a value and it creates a future. And this ready is part of futures. Yeah. That is part of this. But what does it do with it? It goes... It returns an instance of self. Right. So it wraps the thing that you want to do. Okay, right. But in iced, the way that the main method works is that you have an update method. Yeah, this. Which returns the task. Right. Yes. So, you need something that processes the task. And then the thing that calls this is iced itself, which is this. And this will basically have a loop in it, which basically goes along and processes all of those tasks. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So you basically just need to store it. Let's call it value. For the moment, we don't need anything complicated here, so let's just store this value and make it return self, and there we can return a task. We don't have anything that processes this task yet. Let's see what we can do about that. This needs to be public. Alright, so this doesn't match this anymore. Tab kind task. that's what's going to need to go there, isn't it? Oh, here we go. Tab kind task. How far down the rabbit hole are we going to go? Okay. This trait takes 2. Okay, fine. Tab kind task. And I suppose, what, we just go tab kind task? Like that? Yeah, it's true, it's not constrained by it, but what does it need to be? What do we need here? Do we need to just not care about it and use well, do we need to do this? And then it will be constrained by it, right? And we're going to have to add this in a lot of places. Generics are fun. Tra la 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 la. We love generics. Right, and then yeah, maybe. Yes, that's fine. Is that right though? Because it doesn't make. I want multiple different types. Oh. Wait. Oh, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. Let's undo some. Yeah, that's not going to be right. Let's undo this. I think that was a mistake doing that. Let's not do that. But we need this in order to have. Do we not? Oh, I see. Maybe we just put this here. Type kind task. Yeah, it's like that, isn't it? We don't have that. TKT. It's like that, I think. Oh. But is this... How is this going to work? Well... Do we need something that just wraps it? Because this is not gonna. Hold on. Let's fix those first. Let's see what happens. I can see we might get unstuck here a little bit. I suppose. What do we do to fix this? One type parameter. Oh, yeah. Okay, we don't have this validation thing yet, but we'll deal with that later. You see, because this tab update is going to return something. What do we do here? Do we need to wrap it in some other kind of task thing, which is... Let's look at the ice one for inspiration. The different types of tasks. Because we've got all these, and they're all supposed to return a particular type of task, which is, this is all the same. So do we need to map it? Yeah, you need to map it, don't you? So that they can all be the same. So if you got, yeah, okay. And then we map them somehow. And this is what we did. We mapped them. Toolbar message gets task message. Yeah. So yeah, it all needs to end up going back to that type of thing. Yeah, let's say. This currently doesn't anything, so let's go to do and then return task. We don't have this task thing here yet. I'm an idiot. It's not going to do it. Right. This needs to be turning a task. So in our task thing, we need to go a none thing here. We need a pub bun none. So I suppose this then becomes an optional one of these. Like so. so that we can go why is it complaining? Oh. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that kind of thing. And I suppose here do that as well. Yeah, we don't have that yet. That's okay. Let's fix this and put this validations on self. Self is not mutable, but we might be able to do something with this. Because it's a dynamic, right? Mismatch types. So it wants a type parameter TKT, but it got one of those. Why? Why am I not getting this right? But it's going to complain about missing generic parameters now, surely. So how do we make this trait? How do we make this work? I'm getting stuck with my generics now. We've got an implementation of a new tab with a new tab message. No, it really feels like I need to have that here. Because I need a generic type here. Or I might have to refer back to some documentation for this. Because my first thought was putting tab kind this thing here, right? But then we ran into other issues with this. Should I really be... should I have a concrete type here? No, this is T... Well, I've already got it. Oh, I'm being a muppet, aren't I? Ugh. Duh. It was not the task. We've already got the generic argument that we want. it's supposed to be that, right? No. And this is supposed to be a home tab message. Okay, now let's just fix these other ones. I thought something was wrong there. Document tab message, right. And then somehow we need to map these things. Right. This is where we need the mapping. Right, yeah. Okay. It's possible that I might need a break and clear my head for a little bit. We've been going nearly 2.5 hours, nearly, experimenting with this. Right. So this update needs to return a task of this kind. So we need to wrap the task or something, or map it or something. Because this task is this type, but we need to return something else. Which I suppose needs to be a tab kind message. One of these with what are we doing here? Do we just wrap it like this? And then where do I do the wrapping? So we emit a message when it's done, which is going to be a tab kind message. And this is for the home tab. But this task, yeah, this is where we need to map it, isn't it? This is where we need a map implementation. Let's refer back to the iced one because we did this somewhere in here. Where we process tabs. And we put a tab kind of action in the thing, and the action was the update function. The update function was something that returned a TKA. And you get an action. And this spits out a message, and then this is where, that's where you map it. Yeah, this is what we did. Yeah. Let's have a look at this implementation of map and see what it does. Yeah. So it goes over each of the tasks and then runs the function. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. At the moment, our task is just a single thing, so it's easy for us. But if it was a stream of things, then it would go over each one, and then do the same, and run that closure again after it's finished. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? So we want to go, let's write what we want. And the output is the message. And we're supposed to be saying message here. And we want this in here, I think, but we don't create a new task like this, we just want that. And we wrap it. I think that's what we want. I think that's what we want. Yeah. So if we created a map function here, which takes a mutable self probably, and a function, and I guess it returns self, and I guess we need to say where f is does that make sense? It's right to do that for now. Well, it should be a type signature. There's a mute function which takes type of T and gives the type of O. She wouldn't fold it like that. So we don't have any way of running these things yet. Yeah. Oops. T ink is society. Oh. Let me go back to this. Oh, we've already got T there. Yeah. Well, we need an implementation of this task stuff. So I think I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to take a break. And then I'm going to see if I can come up with some way of executing random tasks and get this mapping thing working. It's not very exciting stream content. But hopefully you get the idea of what needs to happen if we try and use this ELM stuff. Yeah, I think it might work. It should work. It should work. I'm going to continue with this off stream after I've had a break and some lunch, and then we'll see what we get back. So on the next stream, you can look forward to the results of this this experimentation of trying to mix some concepts from ICE and ELM into Cushy in order to have a system that allows us to easily get back to a particular point in the application rather than having to repeat the manual steps all the time. And the idea behind that is so that you can also create tests and potentially do assertions. So imagine if you start the app up, emit a sequence of tasks which emit messages, and then assert some things at the end of it. Or if you just wanted to style the application, start the app, emit a sequence of tasks which emit messages, which then put the application into the state such that you can see the results of your styling changes without having to manually do them. Even if there was like hot reloading the app, it would still be useful to be able to get back to a particular point in the application without having to repeat these steps. Because what is important when developing software is the feedback cycle. So you make a change, you look at the result. You make a change, you look at the result. And you're always doing this. Make a change, look at the result. And it needs to be quick, no matter what it is that you're doing. So yeah, so if there's any way that we can have a system which allows us to do that, that's good. If we can reduce, we did that, if we can reduce the amount of cloning and so on within the application, that's also good. So I think this approach, it might work. It might work. It needs some more experimentation. So, just remember folks, it's only software. How hard can it be? We'll find out on the next one. See yas. Bye.